I was born with white fur, an omen of death, and left to die. A child had been born, but not just any child. She was born with white fur covering her arms and legs, soft as winter snow, glimmering under the candlelight. The midwives whispered in horror, their voices trembling as they exchanged fearful glances. "She is an omen," one of them breathed, "born to bring death." Her mother, Lady Amara, held the tiny bundle in her trembling hands, her heart a storm of love and fear. She knew the stories, the curse that had haunted her family for generations, the prophecy that claimed a white-furred child would bring ruin to the kingdom. Every ancestor who had defied it had suffered a tragic fate. And now this child, this innocent child, carried the weight of doom. The father, Lord Darian, was silent. His eyes, hard and cold, reflected a mix of terror and resignation. He had spent years trying to ignore the shadows that lingered over their family, but the moment he saw the child, he knew it could not be ignored. "She cannot stay," he said finally, his voice heavy with sorrow. "The kingdom will not forgive us." "You know the prophecy, you know what the people will do if they see her." Lady Amara's hands shook. "No, she is my daughter, she has done nothing wrong." But even as she spoke, she knew there was no choice. The superstition ran too deep, the fear too strong. The child's life, fragile and precious, would only survive if she was taken away from this place, away from the castle, away from everyone who might harm her. That night, under the cover of a black, starless sky, Lady Amara wrapped the child in a cloak and carried her into the forest. The trees seemed to lean closer, whispering secrets in the wind. The midwives had left warning words. "Leave her where the light cannot reach, where no one dares to wander. Only then might she survive." Lady Amara placed the child beneath the roots of an ancient oak, its gnarled branches stretching like a guardian over her. She kissed the small forehead, whispering a prayer she barely understood. "May the forest protect you. May you find life where others see death." And then she stepped back, her tears falling silently, and vanished into the shadows of the trees. Alone, the child shivered. She did not cry. She did not know fear yet. All she felt was the quiet hum of life in the forest, the soft rustle of leaves, and the faint heartbeat of the world around her. The moonlight fell on her white fur, making it glow like a living flame in the darkness. It was the first time she felt beauty, even in a world that had rejected her. Days passed. Or was it weeks? Time had no meaning in the forest. The child survived by instinct, guided by the whispers of the wind and the creatures who watched over her. A fox with silver fur became her first friend, teaching her to hunt for small prey, to read the signs of danger, and to understand the rhythm of the wild. A family of owls watched from above, their golden eyes reflecting both curiosity and wisdom. But the forest was not always kind. Shadows moved with intent. Wolves prowled with hunger, and twisted shapes lurked where the light could not reach. The child learned quickly that she must be strong, that she must trust no one but the forest and herself. And through it all, the white fur that had caused her abandonment became a shield, a sign that she was different, yes, but also a source of unexpected power. The forest seemed to recognize her, bending subtly around her presence, offering protection that even the wild could not explain. It was during one of these days, when the wind carried a scent unfamiliar yet intriguing, that she first heard him. A man, tall and cloaked in dark robes, moved through the forest with a presence that was both commanding and strange. His eyes were sharp, almost unnaturally so, reflecting a life of isolation and whispered secrets. He was Lord Kalen, a nobleman shunned for dark magic and feared by all who knew his name. His reputation as a cursed man had spread across the kingdom, and yet, somehow, the forest did not resist him. It parted for his passage as though acknowledging him or perhaps warning him. Elijah, as she would later come to call herself, hid among the roots of an ancient tree, her heart beating fast. She did not know whether this man was friend or foe, savior or predator. There was something in him, though, a mirror of the loneliness she had known all her life. He paused, sensing her presence, and his gaze met hers across the clearing. For a long moment, neither moved. Time seemed to halt. The forest held its breath. "You are the child of prophecy," Kalen said finally, his voice low, resonant with curiosity and a touch of awe. "I have searched for you." Elijah wanted to retreat, to run, but something in his tone stopped her. He did not speak with fear or disgust or hatred. He spoke with recognition, and though she did not know why, a spark of trust ignited within her. Kalen extended a gloved hand. "Do not be afraid, I will not harm you." The white-furred girl hesitated, torn between instinct and longing. Loneliness had been her only companion for years, and yet the unknown stretched before her like a dark chasm. Slowly, cautiously, she stepped closer. The moment she touched his hand, a strange warmth spread through her body, unlike anything she had ever felt. It was as though his presence reminded her of something long forgotten, a sense of belonging, fragile but real. Before words could pass between them, a scream shattered the stillness. The forest seemed to twist violently, trees bending unnaturally, shadows writhing like living things. From the darkness, a creature emerged, black as midnight, eyes glowing with hatred. It was neither wolf nor bear, yet it carried the strength and fury of both. Its growl shook the earth and its gaze locked on the girl. Elijah froze. Fear, sharp and raw, coursed through her. She wanted to run, but her limbs refused. Kalen stepped forward, dark robes flowing like smoke around him. With a wave of his hand, the creature recoiled, though it did not flee entirely. "You must go," he urged, his voice strained. Now, instinct took over. Elijah ran, weaving between trees, her fur brushing against the undergrowth, the creature snapping at her heels. Kalen followed, his dark presence cutting a path through the chaos, guiding her toward safety. Finally, they reached a clearing, bathed in silver moonlight. The creature did not follow. It halted at the edge, growling one last time, then vanished into the darkness. Elijah collapsed to the ground, breathless, her small chest rising and falling rapidly. Kalen knelt beside her, his eyes softening as he examined her. "You survived," he said, almost to himself. "You are stronger than I thought." For the first time, Elijah felt a flicker of hope. She was not alone, not entirely. The man who had sought her out, feared by others, shunned and cursed, had chosen to protect her. In that choice, she saw a possibility she had never dared imagine, that perhaps she was not doomed, that perhaps the world had room for someone like her. And yet, even as she looked into Kalen's dark, troubled eyes, a chill ran down her spine. The forest around them was silent now, too silent, as though holding its breath for what was to come. Elijah did not know it yet, but her journey had only begun. The white fur that marked her as an omen of death was not just a curse. It was a key to a destiny far greater and far more dangerous than she could imagine. Kalen helped her to her feet. He placed a gloved hand gently on her shoulder, and for a fleeting moment their eyes met, communicating something unspoken: fear, trust, and the faintest glimmer of hope. Then, as the wind howled and the trees seemed to shiver in the moonlight, a shadow deeper and darker than night itself passed over them. The air thickened with the promise of danger, and the forest seemed to whisper in voices older than time. Elijah's heart raced. She clutched her cloak around her and looked up at Kalen. What is that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kalen's jaw tightened. His eyes, dark and stormy, scanned the forest beyond. "It is coming," he said, "and I fear it will not wait for us to be ready." The girl swallowed hard. Fear, excitement, and something she could not name, something almost like destiny, curdled inside her chest. She did not know what awaited her, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She could no longer run from the world, from the prophecy, or from herself. And as the shadows in the forest deepened, the first threads of a bond that could change both their fates began to weave. A fragile, dangerous, and unbreakable connection between the girl born of death and the man who had been touched by darkness. The forest held its breath. The storm of prophecy was coming. The forest around them was alive, but not in the way Elijah had once known. Trees swayed unnaturally, their twisted branches scraping the sky. Shadows stretched long across the ground, twisting and writhing as though they were searching for something. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of damp earth and old magic. Kalen led her carefully, his hand occasionally brushing against hers, not in threat, but in guidance. Elijah's heart thumped against her ribs. She did not fully trust this man, yet something in him drew her closer, a strange pull she could not explain. "You must stay close," Kalen said, his voice low, almost a growl. "The forest knows you, it senses your power. But there are others, darker forces. They will not welcome you." Elijah nodded, trying to keep her fear from showing. She had survived the forest for years, alone, relying on instincts she barely understood. But now, with Kalen beside her, survival felt different. She did not feel completely safe, but she felt seen. And that frightened her more than any shadow. The path twisted through ancient trees, roots rising like snakes from the soil. In the moonlight, Elijah's white fur glimmered, almost glowing. The forest creatures paused at the edge of the path, watching them, silent and alert. A pair of owls hooted, wings brushing the branches as they circled above. Even the fox that had once been her companion seemed to linger nearby, its eyes reflecting intelligence far beyond ordinary animals. "Why are you helping me?" Elijah asked, unable to hide her curiosity any longer. Kalen's dark eyes met hers. For a moment, he did not answer. He seemed to measure her, weighing her fear against her courage. Then he said, "Because I see what no one else dares to see. You are not a curse. You are a force. And the world needs to understand that." Elijah's chest tightened. She had been abandoned for her fur, for what she represented. And yet, here was someone who did not recoil in fear. Someone who spoke not of doom, but of possibility. Before she could respond, a rustle came from the trees ahead. Shadows moved unnaturally, forming shapes that were neither fully human nor fully animal. The wind hissed through the branches like whispered warnings. Elijah froze. Kalen placed a hand on her shoulder. "Stay calm," he murmured. "Do not run. They will not attack unless you fear them." The shadows stopped. Then, from the darkness, stepped a figure tall and thin, cloaked in tattered robes. Its eyes glowed faintly, green as emerald fire. Elijah's breath caught in her throat. It moved slowly, deliberately, as if testing them, assessing their worth. "You are the girl of white fur," the figure said, voice hollow and echoing. "The Omen, the child of prophecy." Elijah swallowed, trying to speak, but no words came. Kalen stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of her. "She is not your prey," he said firmly. "Leave or face me." The figure tilted its head as if amused. "I do not seek battle, not yet. I am here to watch and to wait." Its gaze swept over Elijah. "The prophecy stirs. You have awakened what was meant to sleep." Elijah felt a shiver run down her spine. She did not understand. She had never asked to be born with white fur. She had never wished to be a sign of death. And yet this creature spoke as if she had already chosen a path she could not escape. Kalen's hand tightened on her shoulder. "Do not listen to it," he said quietly. "It seeks to frighten you, to make you doubt yourself. You are stronger than you know." For the first time, Elijah realized something. Kalen was not just a protector. He was also a teacher. She had survived the forest, yes, but she had never learned to control her own power, her presence, the strange energy that seemed to radiate from her fur. And now, under Kalen's guidance, she would have to learn quickly. They continued through the forest, the shadows following at a distance. Kalen showed her how to move silently, how to sense the heartbeat of the earth, how to listen to the whispers of the wind. Each lesson was small but profound, teaching her not only survival but self-awareness. "You are part of this forest," Kalen explained as they rested near a stream. "And the forest is part of you. When you learn to embrace it, to trust it, it will bend to your will. But you must never let fear control you. Fear is the enemy of power. Elijah listened, absorbing every word. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a connection to Kaelin that went beyond trust. He had not abandoned her, had not judged her for her fur. He saw her as she was, a girl of strength, of mystery, of potential. And that knowledge filled her with both hope and fear. That night they slept under the trees, the moonlight bathing them in silver. Kaelin remained awake, watching the shadows, his thoughts dark and tangled. He had known loneliness, despair, and fear of his own powers. And yet, in the girl with white fur, he saw a chance for redemption, a chance to protect someone wholly, to care for someone without regret. Elijah dreamed of fire and ice, of shadowed castles and forests alive with whispers. She felt the presence of the figure from earlier, the shadowed observer, and a chill ran through her. Yet she also felt Kaelin's steady presence, a grounding force in the storm of prophecy. Morning came, pale and soft. The forest seemed quieter now, as if the night had tested them and found them worthy. Kaelin led her toward a ruined castle hidden deep in the woods, a place of safety and learning. The walls were cracked, ivy-covered but strong. Inside, the air was cool and smelled of old stone and forgotten magic. "This will be your home for now," Kaelin said, "and here you will learn, not just to survive but to understand yourself." Elijah explored the castle, her fur brushing against the cold stone. She felt a strange sense of belonging, though she knew it was fragile. Each room held secrets, and each shadow seemed to whisper of the past. Kaelin watched her from a distance, his gaze softening as he saw her curiosity and courage. Days turned into weeks. Elijah trained under Kaelin's careful guidance. She learned to control the strange energy in her fur, to listen to the forest, and to sense danger before it arrived. The bond between them grew, subtle and unspoken. A brush of a hand, a shared glance, a word of encouragement, small gestures that meant more than either could admit. Yet danger was never far. Shadows moved through the forest, drawn by the stirrings of the prophecy. One evening, as they practiced near the castle's outer walls, a chilling wind swept through the courtyard. Elijah froze. The leaves rustled unnaturally. Kaelin's expression hardened. "They are coming," he said. "I can feel it. The prophecy's shadows are not idle." Before Elijah could ask what he meant, the ground trembled. From the forest, shapes emerged, dark, twisting forms, not quite human, not quite animal. The trees seemed to groan as they approached. Elijah's heart raced. She felt fear, but also something new, a flicker of determination. Kaelin stepped beside her, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. "Stand with me," he said. "Do not run, not tonight, not ever." Together they faced the shadows. Elijah felt her power stir, responding to Kaelin's presence, to her own courage, to the deep connection they shared. Light shimmered across her fur, faint but growing, illuminating the courtyard. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if uncertain. For a moment the forest was silent, the night holding its breath. Elijah looked at Kaelin. His dark eyes met hers, filled with trust, determination, and something she could not name, something warmer than fear, stronger than loneliness. And then the ground shook violently. A great shadow, larger than the rest, emerged from the forest, its eyes blazing with ancient malice. It moved toward them with unstoppable force. Elijah felt a surge of fear and exhilaration. She did not know if she was ready, but she knew she could not step back. Not now. Kaelin's voice cut through the tension. "Elijah, remember what I taught you. Trust yourself. Trust me." The girl with white fur nodded, her heart pounding. She stepped forward, the moonlight catching her glow. The shadows hesitated. The air crackled with anticipation. For the first time, Elijah realized that this was not just survival. This was a test of who she was, of the power she carried, and of the bond that had begun to form between her and the man who had saved her. The shadow loomed closer. And in that moment, everything changed. The shadow towered over them, a black mass that seemed to drink the light from the moon. Its eyes burned like coals, and its presence twisted the air, making the forest groan under the weight of ancient power. Elijah's heart pounded, but this time fear did not dominate. She felt something stronger, resolve, and the unspoken bond with Kalen beside her. Kalen's dark robe swirled around him as he stepped closer. "Elijah," he said, voice steady, "do not run. This is your power. You have it within you. Trust yourself." Elijah nodded, her small fists clenched. She could feel the forest itself stirring beneath her feet, responding to her presence. The white fur along her arms and legs glimmered faintly, like frost catching the first rays of dawn. It was not a curse, she realized. It was a mark of life, of change, of something greater. The shadow moved closer, a living storm of darkness. Its voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Child of prophecy, you awaken the cycle. You cannot escape what you are." "I am not a curse," Elijah said, her voice ringing with new strength. "I am myself. I am not your weapon or your fear." Kalen placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. "Then show it," he urged. "Show them who you are." Elijah inhaled deeply. She let her fear, her anger, her loneliness, and her longing flow into the forest around her. Her fur glowed brighter, a radiant white light that stretched into the trees, sweeping away shadows like wind scattering leaves. The ground trembled as the power inside her surged, responding not with destruction but with renewal. The shadow shrieked, recoiling, but it did not retreat. It was a force older than any tree, stronger than any creature she had faced. And yet, Elijah did not falter. She felt Kalen's steady presence, his confidence anchoring her. For the first time, she realized that her strength was not hers alone. It was theirs, shared through trust, through connection, through something deeper than words. "Together," Kalen said, his voice carrying over the forest. "Do not fight alone." They stepped forward together. Elijah raised her hands, her fur glowing like liquid light, and Kalen extended his own, channeling his dark magic, not to harm but to contain and guide her power. The shadow shrieked again, twisting violently, but the light and darkness intertwined, forming a storm of energy that crackled through the forest. The air shimmered, charged with ancient magic. Elijah felt the weight of her prophecy, the fear that had haunted her since birth, and for the first time she understood. She had not been born to bring death. She had been born to break the cycle, to heal what had been broken for centuries. The shadow faltered, its massive form quivering. Elijah stepped closer, feeling every pulse of its energy, every dark thought it carried. She did not strike with anger. She did not lash out with violence. Instead, she reached inward, drawing out the light within her, offering it as a bridge rather than a weapon. The glow from her fur expanded, flooding the forest, reaching into the darkness and touching the shadow at its core. For a moment there was silence, a pause so deep it seemed the world itself had stopped. And then the shadow softened. Its terrifying form melted into mist, dissipating into the night air. The forest exhaled, the trees straightening, the leaves rustling gently as if in relief. Elijah collapsed to her knees, exhausted but exhilarated. Kalen knelt beside her, brushing a strand of white fur from her face. "You did it," he said softly. "You have changed everything." For the first time, the forest seemed truly alive. Birds sang in the branches, deer cautiously emerged from the shadows, and a gentle wind carried the scent of new growth and possibility. Elijah looked down at herself, at the white fur that had once been a mark of fear, and she smiled. It glimmered softly in the moonlight, no longer an omen of death but a symbol of hope. Kalen's dark eyes met hers, and for the first time the distance between them vanished. He reached out, his hand cupping her face gently, and she leaned into the touch. No words were needed. In that quiet, luminous moment, they understood each other completely. "You are incredible," Kalen whispered, his voice trembling slightly. "Not because of your power, but because of who you are." Elijah felt warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she had never known. She had been abandoned, feared, and misunderstood all her life. And yet, here was someone who saw her, not her fur, not her prophecy, not the whispers of the forest, but her. And she saw him too, Kalen, not as the feared noble, not as a man haunted by darkness, but as someone capable of love, protection, and redemption. They stood together, letting the moonlight wash over them, their hands intertwined. The forest around them seemed to pulse with approval, as if it had been waiting for this moment for centuries. But even in the beauty of triumph, the memory of the prophecy lingered. Elijah knew that peace was fragile, that the world could still hold dangers she had yet to face. Yet she felt no fear, not now. She had learned to embrace herself, to trust her power, and to lean on the bond she shared with Kalen. And somehow that was enough. Days passed and the forest slowly healed. Villagers who had once feared the area began to notice the light in the trees, the sense of safety that had replaced dread. Elijah ventured further, exploring the lands with Kalen at her side. Every step was cautious, every encounter a test of trust, but slowly the world began to open to her. One evening, as they stood on a hill overlooking the forest, Kalen spoke, his voice quiet and thoughtful. "Do you understand now?" Elijah nodded, the moonlight casting silver shadows across her face. "Yes, I am not a curse. I am something else, something greater, and I am not alone." Kalen smiled faintly, a rare warmth touching his features. "You have given me that too," he admitted. "For years I walked in darkness, feared and hated. But you have reminded me that there is hope, that there is life beyond the shadows." They stayed there for a long while, side by side, letting the wind carry their silence. Words were unnecessary. Their journey had been perilous, their connection forged through trials, danger, and shared understanding. And now, in the quiet of the moonlit forest, they felt a peace that was almost sacred. But the prophecy, though fulfilled in part, had not vanished entirely. Elijah could sense it faintly in the wind, in the rustle of the leaves, in the distant mountains that crowned the horizon. There was still work to do, still balance to maintain. Yet for the first time, she was not afraid. Not because she had power, but because she had someone who believed in her, someone who would face the shadows with her. Kalen rested a hand on her shoulder. "The world will never fully understand you," he said, "but that does not matter. What matters is what we know, what we choose, and who we protect." Elijah's eyes sparkled, reflecting the moonlight. "Then we will face it together," she said, and so they did. Together they walked through the forest, their steps light, their hearts intertwined, their bond unbreakable. Shadows would come again, storms would rise, and the world might never stop testing them. But Elijah no longer trembled at the idea of being an omen. She had discovered her truth, her strength, and her place. And beside her, Kalen, once feared, once cursed, stood as a guardian, a companion, and perhaps something even closer to her heart. The moon rose higher, silver and serene, casting its light over the forest and the castle that now felt like home. And in that quiet radiance, Elijah realized the final truth. Prophecy was not about death. It was about transformation, about the courage to face the unknown, about the power to choose love, hope, and life even when the world demanded fear. The forest whispered its approval, and somewhere, far beyond the mountains, the first hints of a new cycle began to stir. But whatever came next, Elijah was ready. Not alone, not afraid, and no longer defined by what others had called an omen. She was herself, white-furred, fierce, and unbreakable. And by her side, Kalen would walk with her, through shadow, through light, and into whatever future awaited. The night held them in its silver embrace, and for the first time the world seemed vast, alive, and full of promise.